This is how longsword attack and defense happen at the same time. Point number 1. Hollywood and video games show you the nature of sword fighting to be turn-based. So you go, then I go. Your turn, then my turn. So you attack, I defend, then I attack and you defend. Of course, in some way it's realistic, but it's all fake choreography, like a dance with your partner, but with swords. They are meant to look as flashy and as epic they can be. Of course, they look fancy, but each of the opponent doesn't actually fight to hit your opponent directly. In real HEMA, fighting isn't turn-based, it's alive. It's meant to overtake your opponent's lack of focus or lack of skill and win against him. And like as quickly as you can with simple movements. It's about constant threats and constant motion. So how it really looks like. Let me start with one of the examples. Imagine you're fighting an opponent with a longsword, and your opponent has a longsword as well. You start in your posta di donna from your main side here, and you take one fencing step forward and a lunge with straight cut to the head. So this straight cut is not only an attack, but it's also a defensive action in some specific way. Because if I try to attack you from my main right side with a cut to the head, you can see on the camera that my blade and my crossguard already cover me from your own the same attack from your right side here. So in this situation, if I was quicker than you, I would hit you first, so I would connect my blade to your head first, and at the millisecond you will do the same thing but a bit later, and your blade would connect with my blade here and even land on my crossguard here. That's why we have crossguard, to protect our hands. So when in binding, the actual counter attack doesn't land on our hands, on our fingers. The same goes with a thrust. So when both of us try to do a thrust at each other, but I'm more on the center line, so my tip, I've established my tip to be more on the center line than your own sword. So in this guard, in this short guard called posta breve, I can do a quick thrust to your high part of your torso, and it would automatically cover myself from your own thrust. Because when I thrust here, so I extend my arms first, and of course I can add my footwork like lunge or fleche, the blade and the crossguard being on the center line already cover me from your own thrust or your own simple cut to my head or my left shoulder. But of course, this kind of simple attack doesn't always cover you. If my opponent would do a more compound action, like disengaging from the bind and going through the other side, then it wouldn't cover me. But like even the simple thrust from the bind with my opponent in the shortest way possible, so I lead my tip of the sword in the shortest way possible into my target, not without coming back, but already extending my arms and controlling my tip. If I would do this motion quicker than my opponent, most of the times I would win and I would cover myself from his afterblow. By the way, if this feels overwhelming, check out the links in the description, which is my school community called From Gamer to Swordsman, where inside I teach you step by step drills, like follow along program you can do, which is designed for beginners like you who want to start training longsword. But let's get back to the video. Continuing my topic, my next point is historical sources back this up. Masters wrote that the best defense is good offense. Most often than not, of course. Not every offense is the best defense, let's be honest. Because sometimes you just have to do a good structured block or parry to then riposte. But you have to remember that each attack with the sword is already meant to cover you from one of the specific sides. So specifically what I mean by this is when we try to attack from some specific guard of longsword or any other HEMA weapon, every attack starts in some specific guard and it ends in some specific guard. So here I start in my ladies guard, in Italian called posta di donna, and here I do a cut which ends in my long guard. In Italian it's called posta longa. In each of these guards, we can do another movement that we can do afterwards. So when I end my cut here in posta longa, I still can fight and add on more compound actions to my fighting. So from here, of course, it's a lot harder to do another cut, but if I try, for example, of course, if I try to cut and then I would just add on my footwork, I could actually connect my blade with a thrust. Of course, I would try to reload my thrust a bit, but even here, because I already established my tip of the sword here with my cut, I can follow through with a thrust into my opponent, and that specific thrust can still cover me. If I do it correctly, it can still cover myself from an opponent's attack with my blade and with my crossguard, if I established my center line here, of course. Another example I want to tell you is that both of you and your opponent want to do a cut to the head. A simple cut from their main side. So let's establish that you and your opponent are right-handed. So the right side are your main side. And mirroring our opponent, our left side is his main side. So if we clash with a cut in medium distance, then most often than not, no one would get more advantage. Let's establish that you want to do a simple cut to the head without any extra movements of the sword. Of course, with proper footwork prepared. But your opponent still wants to hit you to the head, but he wants to do a little feint. So he wants to bamboozle you by feinting his attack and coming from the other side. But he still wants to hit you to the head. If both of you and your opponents are on the same level of skill and time and distance management, then let's guess who would win. I would expect that the winner would be the one who goes straight with a straight cut to the head, because it takes only a small amount of time to connect your blade to your opponent's head, which takes shorter way to do it, then add a feint which takes a little bit more time than just a straight cut to the head. So in this moment when both of you do the actual attack sequence of attack with a lunge, of course with prepared distance, the one who would do a feint would lose, because he would be closed off with a cut, so with the blade on the center line and with crossguard. So he wouldn't, so his blade wouldn't have time to come from the other side, because it would be trapped by your own blade. And that's what I'm telling you, that each simple attack, mainly made in high guards, are meant to attack and cover you from each of the sides. Sure, there are some attacks which are not made to cover you whatsoever, so they leave you exposed. One of them are one of my favorites, and one of the more more dishonorable ones are one-handed cuts to the knee of your opponent, which are made like this. So they can go like a whip attack that you can even renew. This kind of attack leaves me exposed, but if I want to commit to this attack, I want to make sure that I maintain proper distance. So I defend myself with distance. Even if my attack doesn't connect with any, I still try to defend myself with distance, because I know that this specific attack has huge recovery time. So when I come back to my two-handed grip, it takes a lot of time that my opponent could use against me and just attack me directly if he's closer, if he's maintaining proper distance. Generally, attacking is meant to create a cover for ourselves, not to leave us exposed to the counterattack or leave completely exposed to the riposte of our opponent. So why this even matters for the beginners? Because with each attack you have to keep a notion in your mind that you want to cover yourself from one of the specific sides, in being of course in higher guards here. If you separate attack and defense in your mind, you will always be too late. So the main trick you have to remember is to flow with it. So the attack is meant to cover ourselves from one of the side, and defense is setting up the stage for our own riposte. But of course, each attack and each defense is made with footwork as well. So you don't just only attack with your sword being stationary, and you don't only parry stationary with your sword. You have to add on fencing footwork. So coming back to my point, general point, is that footwork is 50% of sword fighting, generally. If you want to attack and cover yourself, you want to add on preparational steps and then the actual attack to the head, for example. Or if you see that your opponent is charging at you, you can counterattack him firmly with the shortest way possible of the cut to your head and close him off with you establishing center line here, so his blade wouldn't connect with you. Or if you're a bit too scared to counterattack into his own attack, of course you have to go backwards and parry his attack and then riposte. My experience when I was just a beginner in sword fighting was I usually was too aggressive in my offensive actions. So generally I would be surprised by my opponents who would quickly made a short lunge but with firm attack to my head, and they didn't even cover themselves with a parry but with the actual attack. So I tried to charge at them, so my distance management was completely off, but they, being more experienced, they knew that if they just attacked first, they would win. They would connect their blade to my head and my attack would just get stuck in their own blade or in their crossguard. And of course sometimes it didn't happen like that, because if most often than not, if both opponents go at each other at the same time, there is more or less 60% of chance that both of them would hit each other. So it would result in a double. My next point is that video games and this weak system keeps feeding us this fake turn-based like sword fighting, that when we attack we don't defend, and when we defend we don't attack. That's not true. They profit of our laziness, so they teach us that sword fighting takes a lot of strength and skill to even start, but in my opinion, if you dreamt about wielding a longsword one day, even when you've been only just a small kid, you have to do it right now. Grab a practice stick or a practice longsword and go outside and try some of my essential beginners solo drills that you can do right away without any experience. This weak system of gaming and Netflix, they profit of men, of our boys being weak and passive, but in real sword fighting it's the total opposite. It's alive, it's lethal, and every small movement can decide if you win or you lose. But you have to take the initiative always. To win, you have to take the initiative. My last point, and an action step you can do even right away, right now, is that you have to try shadow drilling with your longsword. And what I would recommend you to do is to imagine that when you're attacking with a cut, you try to cover yourself from one of the sides. So when you cut from your right to the left, you try to end your cut more or less on the center line, and you can see that this position, you're covering your left side, your left-right side from the opponent's counter attack. Or when you attack from your left side, you see that even though I did a little offline footwork to the left, even here I still defend my right side. Of course, crossing your hands is not ideal, but you have to get used to it. I suggest you to do a lunge plus cut sequence, but when you cut, you don't reload right away your sword to yourself. So you don't come back with your sword. When you cut, you stay with your sword here for a few seconds, and then you come back from your lunge, you recover from it, and then you recover your sword. This will build the muscle memory for you to not always come back with your sword, because you would, in this position, you would leave yourself exposed to your opponent's riposte right away. This can block their riposte or counterattack if they're charged at you at the same time. And being here, even if they blocked you or parried you, when they're coming with their own attack, then you actively try to defend yourself with your own parry. So then you try to recover your sword closer to yourself to have a better structure of blocking or parrying. In my community called From Gamer to Swordsman, you can find even more specific solo drills that are designed for beginners just like you. Inside, you'll find my Longsword Beginners course, where I talk about how to train with minimal gear, so you don't spend on the things that you don't need to train right away even, and to spar. Also, inside you will find the kind of boys, the kind of men who are tired of chasing shiny pixels on the screen and want to learn something more raw and powerful, like sword fighting. So inside of this community, you'll find more guys who are just like you. Right now, they are sharing their own first experience with sword fighting, their first little victories, and more advanced guys are sharing their own feedback. So I really recommend you to check out the link in the description right now and see for yourself. And remember, always take the initiative.